Richard, you had spawning behavior.
We're right in the middle of the window that I check for spawning. And for me, what that usually means is, right, and I've got two sets of corals that are spawning this year that have eggs. Right behind me on the top is the Acropora hyacinthus that I bred that came from, gametes in 2020. So they're 3 years old and they totally have eggs. So hopefully they'll spawn and hopefully I have two genotypes. And in the bottom, I've got 10 or 12 colonies of Millipora that were gravids from the wild. The Millipora came late. I usually like to get this stuff in at the beginning of September. That's important because maybe that's why what happened last night happened. Usually in the spawning, everything happens 12 to 13 days after the full moon. So for me, that means stuff should be spawning really on the 8th, 9th, or 10th. That's like the main window. But because I'm not an idiot, I watched the entire possible window because stuff in the wild can go 2 or 3 days after the full moon. So now we're 5 or 6 days after the full moon. Last night, I'm in my house goofing around. I'm checking lightly. I'm trying to get a little cavalier about it, instead of checking every 15 minutes and, whoa. I'm trying to go, yeah. I know when this is going to happen and it's not tonight, but I'm checking. So they usually start setting around 5:45 to 6:15. So I check there. I don't see any setting. I check again at 6:30. I don't see any setting. I check again at what time was that actually? I check again at 7 and I don't see any setting or spawning, but I'm not really looking very hard because I'm trying to trust. It's like, for 5 or 7 spawns, it's been consistent 12 or 13 days after the full moon. I'm actually putting together a spawn playlist because Alex, if you haven't seen Alex's tank, you should go set. We should put a link, and we need to have Alex on the show because his tank is almost done. It's like 4,200 gallons. That he built out of like soapstone and touch and foam. But Alex was like posting sexy songs to play for the corals, and so I was putting together a Spotify playlist of sexy songs for the corals, and I'm like. And I look up and it's like 7:20 and I'm like, oh, I missed by 5 minutes. They're not going to go tonight. Fuck it. And I added one more song, Business Time, by the way, by Flight of the Conchords. And I went, this is stupid. I should test. Like the guilt got better of me. And I went and I opened the top, nothing. I was like, okay. I opened the bottom. And as soon as I smelled it, I went, they're spawning right now. I can smell
it. You can smell it.
Smelled it right away. I went, they're spawning. So I reached in, I turned off all the flow through. I haven't done that. I haven't turned off the flow in the tank until I see setting. And then I start seeing some eggs and stuff, and I see that there's 2 colonies spawning. And they're not going very big. It's early, so but only 2 colonies out of the 10 or 12 colonies I have spawn, and nothing from the top. So what might it be? It might be that these came late. I got these at the beginning of October or mid-October, actually, rather than in September. So it might take 2 months or 3 months for them to spawn late. Or they might just be close enough to the chain. The train is going and they're going to go at this time. Huh. So somebody else I know who's working also had a trickle spawn yesterday. They only had 1 colony go. And I have not heard anything. It's too early. Their spawning will happen in about 3 hours here. So I've got some pics. I should show you these pics. So it's very exciting.
Crazy. I used to take care of a tank that had 6 tridacnas, and they would breed, or at least they would spawn all the time. At least they would kick out. Mostly it was I could tell was the sperm, and then I had one that was kicking out eggs. But it seemed like a couple of them throwing that out would sort of trigger the other ones. Do acroporids do that?
We don't really know any of these
trigger each other.
We know some people know a little bit. I don't know much. It's very complicated. And we're not sure what does the trigger. So, but if there is the trigger, why did only 2 of them go? last night.
Yeah.
If there is something that goes into the water that will trigger them, it didn't trigger 80%.
Huh.
So I don't know, man. I'm just glad. This is madness. It's madness every time I do it. And I am just thrilled that my protocols are such that I got it. Right.
Yeah.
And then it was two. Here's all my stuff from last night, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just jars and shit. Fat separators and a microscope and cups. And it was great because I went, oh, the one colony is going light and the other is going heavier. So my first, I know what to do. You need sperm and eggs from two different colonies, right? Otherwise, they won't reproduce.
Really?
So, the most important thing is getting the sperm from the small colony, right? Because there's a lot of sperm in the egg bundles, in the sperm and egg bundles, and there's fewer eggs. So if I've got a lot of eggs from one and a little bit of sperm for another, I want to make sure I collect that sperm and make sure it's segregated and I don't throw it away by accident.
Yeah.
So I collected as much as I could from the small one and kind of left it in its own container, knowing that I was going to add bundles from other containers to that one to try to concentrate that sperm as much as possible because it was a small spawn.
If you shut the water off, does that sperm sort of concentrate it? All of it floats, correct?
All of it floats. So the other thing that's cool, the way I do it is I collect it off the surface rather than setting up nets with a collection tube because I don't have the space for nets in a collection tube.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to go off and yada, yada, yada. So I just do it from the surface. But that also means that as I'm collecting off the surface, I can also collect sperm that's sitting up there as well. So that's good. Be better if I could collect it all into little tubes and then I know what everything is, but I just don't have the space.
That sounds like a crazy time.
I don't know what I would have to do something very different. But what I'm doing is fine. And so I mixed it, I did it, let it sit for an hour, and we have got here. I'll show you pictures now. Sorry. So that's it was such a small, it was a smallish spawn, a very small spawn, 2 colonies, and I didn't catch it. So it was like I took like 5 pictures and a quick video and then was out. It was like, now I have to work now. I can't mess around with the coral. Yeah. The interesting thing is this coral is one of the ones that had some STN or RTN on it, some necrosis.
Yeah, see it.
And I actually believe that this is the one that I cracked 3 branches to look for eggs and did not find any. So it went off. So that's pretty cool. Then that's a picture of a bunch of sperm and eggs. That's already fertilized. So it's sitting, that's fertilizing right there. So you can see
it's okay for it to sit sort of stagnant for a little bit.
I mix it every 10 minutes or so, but you want the sperm to get to it. And you can see, can you see this cursor on your screen?
Yeah.
So these egg bundles are bigger than these egg bundles.
Oh, I see.
So this is not a bundle anymore. This is already popped. These are ones getting ready to pop. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine to leave them stagnant for the hour or 2 that fertilization occurs. Then I put them in the bouncing. Do I have a video of that? I'll show that to you in a minute. I think
you do somewhere because I was watching it where you have it to where the cup is held up by some foam and it's sort of, and you have your wave maker sort of bouncing it gently.
Yeah, let me show you that now because that's
hell, it's right behind you, isn't it?
It's right here.
Yeah.
You can't see it. It's over here.
Yeah.
That should be on.
Yeah. Yeah,
there
that's good.
Go. And so you can see that's a wave maker bouncing the water gently like that. And it's really nice because it keeps all of these coral embryos just moving a little bit so they don't stick to the sides of the container right there. That's a problem. Is they can stick to the sides where they dry out, which is not bad, or they can stick near the sides and get bacteria that takes them over.
Oh.
So I set that to bouncing last night and then came in about 8 hours later and threw some stuff on the microscope. And here's the first picture.
Whoa. Is that like a single drop of water?
That is a single drop of water, and you can see the tick marks behind there.
Oh, okay.
For the
millimeters.
And let me actually make sure I know what I'm talking.
They look like cornflakes.
That's it's called the cornflake stage.
Oh, da-da. That's so cool, man. A lot of them fit inside of a drop of water.
Yeah. So the space between here and here, the long lines is 1 millimeter.
Okay.
So the short line is 0.5 millimeter. So that gives you an idea of how big they are, which is nice that they are.
Boy, they are tiny.
They're prawn chipping, so they'll chip like this and then they get all flat, and then they'll roll up again into a ball, which might be here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. Did that one maybe not get it done?
It maybe didn't, or it may be super advanced. It's hard to tell. And I only did one check because I'm trying to be a little bit more cavalier about this.
Yeah.
Today, and then I had to get ready for the show or whatever. So that's that. And here's a little closer up. And yeah, they look like shrimp chips or potato chips or prawn chips. And that's good development. So, and then they'll turn back into a ball, and then they'll start to spin, and then they'll start to spin faster, and then they'll start to swim, and then they'll elongate. And then hopefully we'll be ready for some settlement action in 5 to 8 days.
That is crazy. Do you know what that means when they do that look like a scab? Like what are they doing by doing that?
They're developing. I don't have a development chart here. But
that's so weird though that they start off like a BB and then do that scab thing and then go back to a BB.
You know, they start out as an egg, right? And then they start dividing and flattening and chipping. And then as the cells divide more and more, they shape up into a round ball with cilia. It's pretty cool.
They're little swimming hairs.
Yeah. So I come in here and I check over here now, and everything's bouncing really well. I'm thrilled. I did the bouncing a little bit better. I figured out a better way to. Basically, I've got the bucket with a loop of coated wire, and then I've got a hook of coated wire that comes over, that's clamped to the top, and then it just kind of sits in it. So it's like a hook through a round ring.
That's very suggestive there.
So it all gets, so it doesn't get caught up, and it keeps moving. And the current, the reason they're stuck to the tops is because the flow of this is actually going to push it all to one side. And I don't want that. I want to take advantage of the water going up and down. And the Geocanthus is still in here, as you can see.
Eyeball looking good.
What's its eye looking like? The eye is slightly swollen.
I mean, he's got lots of movement though.
Oh yeah, he's fine. Eats like a champ. We'll check the eye in a day or two, and too much is going on for me to treat him, but he looks good. We'll see what he might just live, man. He might just live in here until this is done.
Yeah, why not?
But I'm telling you, man, I love having this here. I need this in my. Maybe I'll do a small, just a 8-inch wide that goes underneath my bog plants, because it is so convenient. There's still frags in there from yesterday too.
It's just handy.
It's just super handy. Super handy. So yeah, they're spawning. So the next 2 or 3 weeks are a little crazy. And then the next couple months are a little crazy as I'm dealing with babies again. I hope, fingers crossed, that all this works and that these survive and that more come.
So, but just because those 2 went off, that's not going to tell you that the others are necessarily going to go off. But you know the general window that they should. Yeah.
And there's often 3 or 4 nights of spawning for the same corals. There's a first night where they go, ooh, we're a little sexy. And then usually the next night is like, we don't care about sex. We just want it to happen. And then
would those guys do it again?
Maybe, maybe not. The whole colony didn't go. There were definitely branches that did not go. So it's really hard to know what's going to happen, but we'll see. I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Madness, madness,